What's up everyone? Alex here. Do you remember the first time you played Final Fantasy? Chances are, some of the finer details of your recollection might be lost to time. But what I can say with certainty is that those memories are filled with awe, excitement, and wonder that games of this genre can provide. But what if I told you that somehow Square Enix has come up with a way to take you back in time, allowing you to relive some of these memories without ever having to go back and play these games all over again? This time-traveling contraption is called Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, and I think it's poised to be one of the most underappreciated games of the year. If you haven't heard of it, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is a rhythm game that celebrates the massive soundtrack library Square Enix has built over the years, with a focus on the Final Fantasy series. This is the 5th game in the Theatrhythm franchise, and the 4th game released on console, with an arcade release that I personally never seen stateside. The game is developed by Indies Zero and published by Square Enix, and you're seeing footage from the Switch Premium Deluxe Edition that was gifted to me by an anonymous fan. I have a strong feeling that when some of you heard the term rhythm game, a good number of you checked out. After all, when you think of rhythm games, you think Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and other similar titles. I can't blame you, as I myself fell victim to the mercurial nature of the genre, having purchased the streaming-only Guitar Hero Live at launch, only to have it shut down shortly after, leaving me with a plastic guitar and a useless disc that now doubles as a coaster. So why would someone like me, who got burnt out by the genre, would even consider Theatrhythm? I've already given you the answer to this. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is a time machine. But let me elaborate on this a bit before you think I'm cuckoo. Final Bar Line releasing in February 16, 2023 isn't just a random date. This was timed to release exactly 11 years after the first Theatrhythm game launched. While this little bit of trivia might sound exactly that, this small detail actually speaks volumes to what Final Bar Line is at its heart. A musical celebration spanning 35 years of Final Fantasy. The opening logo that pops up at the start merely reinforces this fact, and everything in its presentation, right up to the inclusion of a museum, works in concert to surround you with ways to relive and rediscover feelings of nostalgia with the series. One common comment that I get when talking about Final Bar Line is that it quote-unquote doesn't have a story. While it might not have a traditional narrative, it does in fact have several stories told through song. Much like previous Theatrhythms, songs are categorized by which Final Fantasy they belong to, presenting them as albums at the start. You'll have limited access at first, but this is done so that you're not presented with super challenging songs early on. Upon selecting your first album, you'll be presented with a path that you'll have to follow that mirrors your journey in the original game. For example, if you selected Final Fantasy VII, then you're probably expecting Bombing Mission to be the first song you'll play, which it is. And if you played the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV, your initial experience of said game is reflected by having you choose one of 3 songs to start with, each representing the 3 starting areas in A Realm Reborn. By presenting songs in this manner, the order in which the songs appear are given a lot more importance, cleverly utilizing your thoughts, feelings, and nostalgia of said games to fill in the blanks. This method of retelling a game's story is something that no other rhythm game has attempted, and I think it's a more meaningful way to experience these games, as your own personal experience forms the final piece of each song's narrative. Just speaking for myself, every time I heard the first few notes of a song, it always evoked a reaction like, "Ooh, I remember that one," which is then followed by a memory or two of the exact moment in the game when that song played. Given that I was also playing this with my wife, each song created new conversation pieces and allowed us to reminisce about playing these games when we were young. Those were the good old days. Esoteric descriptions of feelings and nostalgia aside, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is not without its faults. For one, if you've never played a single Final Fantasy, chances are none of the things that I mentioned would even apply to you. And this might be putting the cart before the horse, given that I've yet to talk about some of these, but I do find that Final Bar Line could use some quality of life features. For instance, when selecting characters for your party, you won't be able to view their available skills until after you've added them. Unfortunately, the available sorting features just aren't good enough to cover this lack of skill display. And along the same lines, being able to know what skills you'll be learning at what levels would have been a fantastic addition. And lastly, which to me is the most egregious fault of them all, is the decision to make iconic songs part of a bonus DLC that's only available when you buy the digital deluxe edition and above. Prior to this release, I actually didn't know if these other editions would be available to upgrade to after purchase, so I felt as though I was forced to get the most expensive version to ensure that I don't miss anything. Additionally, omitting Xanarkand from the base game, which is the song that literally starts your journey through Final Fantasy X, is a huge letdown. All that aside, the 385 songs that are available in the base version of Final Bar Line are nothing to sneeze at. As mentioned, the order in which you experience each song, as well as the song selection itself, were carefully curated to ensure that it covers a wide breadth of genres and challenges that represent the game they belong to. But this all doesn't matter if you can't do anything meaningful to it, can you? So how does Theatrhythm work with these songs then? Theatrhythm songs are classified under one of three different song stages: Field, Battle, and Event. Field stages require you to travel as far of a distance as possible while battling monsters preventing you from advancing. Battle stages feature waves of monsters you'll have to defeat to eventually make it to a boss of sorts. And event stages are usually cutscenes or gameplay recordings whose lanes are presented in a top-down format, similar to Guitar Hero and Rock Band. If you've never played a Theatrhythm game before, you might be surprised to learn how much more accessible it is when compared to other rhythm games. The notes on the lanes, for instance, don't ask you to press specific buttons. Just need to press any of the D-pad, face buttons, bumpers, or triggers when the notes hit the markers on the right. On slightly harder selections, you might be asked to press or hold any of the analog sticks towards a specific direction in time with the beat. And on even harder sections, it might even ask you to press or hold two of the aforementioned buttons, or even move both analog sticks towards or away from each other. The beauty of all of this is that you can make things as easy or as difficult as you'd like. In addition to different difficulties, each track also features a standard, pair, and simple mode. Standard is pretty much what I explained just now, so let's go over pair and simple. Pair allows you to play every song in Final Bar Line with a local co-op partner. This is done by dividing each of the songs into halves, with the upper half assigned to the first player and the bottom half assigned to the second player. This helps with a lot of the tougher songs in the game, and maybe even encourage you to try out harder difficulties. Since I played this game a ton with my wife, I love the inclusion of pair mode, and it's definitely given me a newfound appreciation for the game just with this small change. Simple mode, as it's named, makes all inputs simpler, but not easier. This involves removing analog stick flick movements, directional inputs, and even double red notes. So if you've never liked these kinds of movements, this mode exists for you. The crazy thing about all of this is that each mode's scores and difficulties are tracked separately. So, if you wanted to try and aim for that expert SSS rank for that one song that you just did in pair or simple, you'll find no score there once you change the mode back to standard. It's just waiting for you to tackle the challenge at your own pace. And that's the beauty of Theatrhythm. While it does have the trappings of your typical rhythm game, high scores, harder difficulties, different input modes, etc., the game offers several different means of scoring regardless of the options you've chosen. Apart from the letter score you get from timing, you'll also get props for hitting all of the notes in a song despite that, a perfect chain as it's called. And that's not even including the various quests that will test your ability to create good party compositions. These party compositions are yet another way Theatrhythm differentiates itself from other rhythm games. Each album unlocked will allow you to add characters from that game to your parties, each having different roles and abilities. You don't just have to think about what kind of physical or elemental damage they'll inflict depending on what groups of enemies you'll be facing, but also whether or not you'll have to protect yourself from status effects that can cost you valuable time. There are challenges that require you to defeat a specific boss, which appears after a set of enemies are defeated that you might not be able to get to despite finishing the associated song. If the song features a Marlboro as one of the enemies, for instance, you'll need to have a party member that can remove blind, or else you'll be spending the next 8 seconds missing all of your attacks. And 8 seconds in Final Bar Line can feel like a lifetime. This does mean that you'll have to level up your characters by playing Theatrhythm a ton, though you can also use a couple of different items that can boost your experience gain. I was able to get Terra to level 99 within a day or two thanks to these items. There's another set of levels after you reach level 99 that makes these characters even stronger, though they won't be learning any new abilities. Whenever I think of Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, one word comes to mind right away: celebration. While the developers probably didn't intend for anyone to see this game beyond a highfalutin way to enjoy the songs in the Final Fantasy series, I certainly could feel the love and care that was brought in to create an endeavor like this. The thing about Theatrhythm is that it's the perfect in-between game, or your main game if you're up to it. I've spent at least a whole day just playing Final Bar Line, unlocking new albums, and even trying out the DLC tracks with different party setups. There is an unrivaled joy with choosing your favorite Final Fantasy characters, jumping into your favorite songs, and having them defeat a challenge or two. There's even a great discovery piece here too, as certain albums have allowed me to really hone in on tracks that I swear I've never heard of before, only for Theatrhythm to shine a bright light on it, thanks to its intense focus on music. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line will make you smile, laugh, cry, and relive some of your best memories in the Final Fantasy series. It'll remind you of why you loved Final Fantasy to begin with, and maybe even turn you into a fan if you've never even played a single one. And it'll do so whether or not you've got friends or loved ones by your side to play with or against. Many will most certainly overlook Theatrhythm Final Bar Line as quote-unquote yet another rhythm game, and that's okay. But for the ones who did choose to take on this magical musical journey, I've no doubt that a plethora of good vibes started setting off like fireworks soon after you finished your first song.